Arts Center, and it is my honor to be here with these wonderful adults on the spectrum to help share some insight from the inside. So I've told the panel up here that we've got, I think I have 12 or 13 questions that have come. We've developed that they've been sent ahead of time, so we're going to kind of give everybody a chance to talk. They do not have to answer every question. You can just say pass, and then we'll go to the next person. I think what we need to do is I can give you this way, and then we'll come back this way, so not everybody is all, poor Nick doesn't have to answer first every time, okay? So Nick, tell us about a favorite teacher or therapist. What did he or she do that made them special to you?
So I'm going to talk briefly about a therapist I had as a kid, and his name was Colin, and he did a lot for my academic ways, where I was having trouble counting and reading and writing, and he made it very different from other therapists I had, because he would let me play my favorite video games as a kid, but he would use the video games in a way where I was able to count in the video game, but I couldn't really do it in person for whatever the reason was. But he was able to make that link, and now to this day I can count, read, learn, and I attribute that to Mr. Collins. That was very nice. So for me, I never really had any futures for retirement either. I've kind of always, it was very important to always keep on my feet, always be able to learn new skills, new opportunities, stuff like that. And so I would love to see myself doing work that would be appropriate for me. Right now I'm in a learning program with USF called Launch. They had a talk here, I believe it was Thursday, somewhere around there. And they're helping me figure out what kind of career path I want to find. And I think I've chosen robotics, so I'm learning how to do that. So I would hope to be able to find a permanent job with that. And hopefully my end goal would probably to be self-sustaining, living on my own, in a nice little college house in the Smoky Mountains.
Kind of a long lead-in to the question, so let me prepare you for that. But it's an important question. So there's been a lot of discussion recently about the language people use about talking about autism. So many professional helpers were taught to use person-first language, like saying a person with autism instead of an autistic person. But recently, some people have led a push to use identity-first language, switching back to autistic person. And then some people want to just not mention autism at all and be called neurodiverse or on the spectrum. So for each of you, the question is, do you have a personal preference, and what do you think about the issue?
So for me, I would rather have people know that I'm autistic straight off the bat. So I would rather not have that just call me a regular person, because I'm not. I'm a little different, and I feel like people deserve to know that when they first meet me on the spot. And honestly, for me, it doesn't really matter, as either autistic first or autistic last, it gets the point across. So for me, it works either way. So mine's a little bit longer, if you don't mind. But when I was a kid, I had a deathly fear of dark and of loud noises, which is usually something you could get around, but I do have one problem, and my mom was a Disney dork when I was a kid, so as you can tell, those two things don't really mix very well. But it was very prominent when it started turning nighttime, and especially for Disney, because they have fireworks. And that was my biggest fear, is when I was a kid, was having to stay in a Disney park after dark when fireworks were happening. I was definitely a runner, I was a fighter, I was getting to the parking lot no matter what was in my way. But how I coped with it, and it is fully 100% on my parents that helped me get over this fear, was they pushed me just enough to before I would start to run. So we would start in the parking lot. We would start at the boat station, right out of sight of the check-in station, at the check-in station. And now I can fully and confidently say I can go into a Disney park after dark without being afraid ever again.
Okay, go ahead. It's one of you. And who? Oh, Andy. I've lost track. Okay, here we go. What do adults on the spectrum in Florida need from the state in order to be successful? And then, are there things that are missing or things that need to be developed on a policy or service level?
So I contemplated for this for a little bit, kind of looking back in my whole life, trying to figure out where I could have used help from the state, and I kind of realized that that help is really prominent now for me right now, because it seems like when a person with autism turns 18, all of their support that they get vanishes. They're on their own, and the only thing that really helps is disability welfare checks. But the problem I have with that is that it kind of forces them to not have stable income because they will have to stay a certain level of pay that they receive before their privileges get taken away from it. So I feel like we need to change the way that's made so people with disabilities have an incentive or a way for them to be able to get rewarded for getting a job when they become an adult and not take all of their help that they already have be taken away just because they're trying to make a stable living for themselves.
Do you have a job? If so, tell us about what you do or how the process of finding the job worked for you. And then if you are working, do you deal with challenges at work? And if so, how do you deal with them? And if you are working, did you disclose your disability to your employer or coworkers? And has that been helpful? Any advice to others on the spectrum about whether to disclose or not to disclose? And any advice you have for young people who are going to get a job? Again, that was lots of parts. I'll repeat anything that you need, but you can start us off. Sure. This is talking about, do you or did you ever have a job?
Okay.
If so, tell us about it.
Okay, so I had 2 jobs. Right now, I'm in like a transfer program with Launch, which I talked about before. But my 2 jobs before Launch was I worked with an ABA company called Full Spectrum ABA, where I did digital marketing for them. And my second job was with Lowe's, where I did lawn and garden, and I usually did the Christmas trees for around the Christmas time. But for those 2 jobs, you could really tell the difference between companies when they have autism in mind and when they don't. Like Full Spectrum was an ABA company, so they obviously knew very well how to handle autism in a professional way. So it was very nice. It was very easy to get accommodations. It was very nice for everybody to kind of understand how autism kind of works. So there wasn't very many surprises when you came to work that day. Compared to Lowe's, where they don't have very many people that are on the spectrum that work there. So it's a little more of a convincing to show the people that work there that you're not a hassle because you have this disability. I'm just as capable as you are, but I just do something a little different. I think a little different. I work a little different. And for disclosing, I have a little trick of my own where I do, unless you need accommodations, this is the only rule where, unless you need accommodations, if you don't, I would usually wait before I disclose my disability, and I work a little bit, and I try to work harder than anybody else in that company before I disclose, because then when you do, it shows everybody there that this person does stuff a little differently, but works harder than I do. So maybe it changes their mind just a little bit forever.
Here's the next question, and we're going to start with you. What advice would you give your younger self or other children on the spectrum?
A big thing, and the words I would probably say to my younger self is, fear is going to be uncomfortable, but don't turn away from it, not even for a second.
I've got plenty of time to think about this. Plenty of years. Well, human beings are tribal. Ever since the beginning of time, we've all been tribal. Whether it's going to be going to a class reunion, you know where the tribes are. You know where they go on the different sides of the room for their reunions. People have always been that way. People will always find their little niches with their groups. So I would tell the child, there will be a grouping that you'll want to participate with. There's nothing wrong with that. But keep it broad and try and do more than just one. Don't be influenced, and make your own decisions. Also, ego posturing. You're going to see that ego posturing is pretty prevalent when you're a young kid. Everybody's going to be quite open and
I would love to come up here and say I would love for the schooling system to be more lenient. I would love for Disney employees to be able to learn more about autism and learn how to handle it when they come across it. But honestly, I would never change anything from what anybody did in my life, because they all made me the person I am today. So I would probably be the black sheep and say I wouldn't change anything.
Nick, that's the beauty of a panel. We want to get everybody's perspective, and I think it's all very valid. Okay, here's the next question. Is there something that you think research aimed at helping people on the spectrum needs to be looking at in the next 5 to 10 years? Like where does the research need to be focused?
So I think that research should be very geared towards helping kids face whatever issues or whatever disabilities they have, more than trying to work around it. Like a lot of therapists and doctors and stuff like that will try to help you find coping mechanisms to work around whatever disability you have. But the strongest part of what makes me me was because I fought head on against my disability instead of working around it. So I feel like there should be just a little bit more research to figure out how that can make it more accessible for every child that can come through, to help them become a better version of themselves with hardship more than coddling them around their disability and having their disability become one with them. I didn't get the question.
Okay, the question was, as you're getting older, do you feel like the symptoms of autism are getting less or more? Or any? Go ahead. Nick's going to start if anybody else wants to answer.
There we go, there's the on. So for me, I don't know about anybody else, I can't speak for anybody else on the panel, but for me specifically, I feel like it has been not going away, because I don't believe autism just kind of goes away after a while, but I could definitely tell the difference between the younger version of me that was very low functioning, nonverbal, to the person I am today, being able to sit in front of a panel of how many other people are in this room.
Yeah.
So, for me, I think it's gone away a little bit.